I would be wondering what would be the essence of the IYC if, you know, it's not being heard. It's not as, you know, as vocal as it ought to be, in the sense that what the threats that people tend to take seriously, and I'm not saying that the IYC should go and be bombing installations, I mean, but it would seem that their roles are being usurped by bodies such as the Niger Delta Avengers. We've seen MEND, we've seen even more violent groups come up and say, well, we are the voices of the Niger Delta, we are the ones fighting for the people of the Niger Delta. What would you say the role of the IYC is?
The role of the IYC basically is for advocacy for total resource control for our people. And let me put it right, the voice of the IYC is not being usurped by any other voice. The voice of the IYC can be complemented by many other voices. You
feel you're being complemented by voices such, and I must add, violent voices such as Niger Delta Avengers?
No, we don't give validity to anything that is illegitimate. By voices, I mean voices of sister groups who understand, who share in our pains, whether within the Niger Delta or outside the Niger Delta. Such as maybe even the Arewa Consultative Forum, such as NGOs like whatever people represent. I may not be able to call 1 or 2 years, such as ERA, the environmental rights groups and others. So our voices are not usurped. Our voices can be complemented, even by ethnic nationalities within the region, such as our brothers from Ishekiri, Yoruba, and others, and outside it. So it's not totally usurped. But basically, what you need to understand is that in the course of doing what we are doing, like you rightly asked, our duty is to advocate resource control, justice for the Niger Delta, and equity for the Niger Delta, and that we will do legitimately and seriously and probably firmly.
How firm has your voice been in calls such as, or in conflict situations or potential conflict situation like we see with the siting of the Niger Delta University? We see that battle sometimes between the Jaws and the Shakiris, you know, talking about where it should be cited or what name it should bear as a result of, you know, the location of the university.
I think that is not even a problem. It's just a recent hype that has come up. I heard it somewhere. But basically, what the federal government needs to understand, what the federal government needs to understand is that if there is any region that needs facilities like the university in Ekrankoko is the Niger Delta region. Here we are complaining about vices in the Niger Delta, and yet you are approbating and reprobating yourself by saying institutions like the Ekrankoko University is not giving the full support that is needed for it to come up. See, Mark, if there is one thing that is needed and that should be promoted in the Niger Delta, it's education. Look at what is going on in Bielsa in the John National Academy, where 1,000 students are housed, being fed for free, medicals for free. They have a British principal for free, their books are free. And more of that should be encouraged in the Niger Delta. Education and more education. So the issues about the Ekrankoko University are just over-politicized. So
who's politicizing it?
I don't know, maybe the federal government, but if not, what we had expected...
What interest does the federal government have in politicizing it?
I'm yet to find out, because what we had expected as promised by the federal government was for that university to take off. For crying out loud, that's a maritime university that will not school only people from the Niger Delta, as much as we think it will create educational development in Niger Delta. Maokbe can school there. Our sisters abroad, there's people from every other place can go there and school.
I'm curious though, I mean, when you begin to see, and this is not the first time, when we begin to see factionalization, and sometimes these threats are real, when you're supposed to see unity of purpose in a cause, we have seen fightings between Niger Delta communities, and you look very surprised. Is that a new thing to you?
No, it's not a new thing to me. And
why do you think it's so difficult for communities in the Niger Delta to come together and, you know, seek a common or forge a common front?
In the example you have just stated there is no disunity with respect to the siting of the university in the Niger Delta. Like I told you, sometimes people in other platforms have a way of hyping the 10% against the 90%. By that I mean, if 90% of the people from a particular region queues behind a thing, you know, if 10% is saying something that is contrary to what the 90% is saying, we are not supposed to give relevance to what the 10% is saying. By that I mean the university in the Krankoko and many other institutions that are coming up in the Niger Delta. It's a welcome development that all Nigerian Deltans are happy about. Both the Jaws are happy about it, the Shekris are happy about it. In short, as a matter of fact, we want that to be completed so that other institutions can also come up in the Niger Delta and make it an educational beehive. So I will want to beg that let's, not you particularly, but let quarters not give height to the 10% distractive voice and not listen to the 90% voice that says this is the way forward. And I think over 90% of us are in support of that. And that includes Ijos, Ishekiris, Urobos, and other people living in the Niger Delta.
I'm curious. There's a development now in the Niger Delta called monetization of agitations. Have you heard of it? I mean, the fact that groups will come up, claim that they're agitating for a group of people or they're fighting for a common cause, and in the moment they're settled, in quote, you know, all the agitation seems to die out. We've seen that with the amnesty program, you know, instituted by the government of President Yerodwa, and then we saw that subsequently, you know, continue with the warlords being granted amnesty and in many instances settled with contracts, and then that's it. What's in it for the people of the Niger Delta?
Basically, that in it does not really describe the agitations in the Niger Delta. That actually describes the political economy of the violence or the vices in the Niger Delta, authored mostly by the federal government.
By the federal government?
By the federal government of Nigeria and their allies, who are mostly in the IOCs and those in the cabals.
Not by the lack of discipline on the part of those who are agitating?
No. Let me give you an example, Maokbe. This is Abuja. Abuja is this developed from the money from the Niger Delta. And all we seek in the Niger Delta is resource control for the development of our people. The least the federal government can do is to roll in the caterpillars and begin to develop that region. The least the federal government can do is to begin to stick to our voices and make it potent. By that I mean the federal government came up not too long ago and said IOCs should relocate to the Niger Delta.